Namah Shivay. We are back again with our book Takeaway Practice of Immortality, and today we'll be starting with chapter 6, From Destruction a Seed Rose. So in this chapter we begin by Monday Mahadev talks. Babaji comes in and he addresses all the monks in the meditation hall, and he's dressed in white, and he says, today we will be doing meditation which is called the Antim Yatra, which is of course the final journey. And Mahadev says, somewhere Babaji was connected to the thoughts that had been running in my mind about the cycle of birth, life and death. In our last chapter we had seen where Babaji talks to Mahadev about the three Shivlings which signify birth, maintenance and death of life. So Mahadev was plagued by those questions, and when Babaji comes and talks about the meditation that they are going to be doing, he gathers why he's wearing white now. In our tradition, when anyone goes to the Antim Yatra, the family, we always wear white as a mark of respect. So they say, Mahadev says that we started the meditation, and he talks about the cessation of body, slowly how the breath stops, the heartbeat stops, and slowly there's a numbing of the entire physiology of the body, the brain, the heart. And then there's an exhalation. And once the body is done with, then the meditation they go to what will eventually happen. How does the family deal with the loss? In all this that they are going through in the meditation, eventually the family accepts, and then there comes the phase in the meditation where you see yourself, your body being taken away to the cremation ground, where you are burnt. And this process is described in a very detailed manner, where how slowly everything just shrivels up and just burns down to ash. And Mahadev says, even my eyes had become wet. I did not have many possessions, but my thoughts again and again went to Babaji's dog Tufan. What will happen to him when my body is burning? Who will look after him? Who would take care of him? And then in the end of the meditation, when the body is completely burnt and there's nothing left, there's the total cessation of life. You're reduced to dust. And then what? All of a sudden, everything what you had, your life, your routine, your friends, your work, nothing is left anymore. You're mere dust. And then what happens? At that time, all the monks were thinking, my father said, take a deep breath, exhale and move your fingers, and then they come back. And then there's a very stoic silence amongst everybody. Some of the senior monks who may have witnessed this meditation earlier were absorbed in their thoughts. Some still had their eyes wet. The young ones had a lot of contemplation to do. Mahadev says, I shrugged my shoulders, trying to get rid of the feeling of death which lay so heavy upon me, and I went to discover the mango trees. The mango trees which were favorite of all the young monks, thinking there might be some mango still there. And guess what? When he reaches over there, he realizes, I looked up, into my horror, I saw that every single of fruit had been destroyed. A tribe of languors had found our tree. Apparently, these were the monkeys, which was a legacy of a great war that was fought long enough in the era of Hanuman, the monkey god. Apparently, they had devoured all the mangoes and scattered all the seeds around. We young monks would have to just wait for the next season to see if the tree deserved enough to bear another crop. Mahadev talks about over here, the world is a balance between manifestation and destruction. the two forces that are represented by Shiva and Shakti. In this particular paragraph, Mahadev also talks about the Mahasiddha Gorakshnath, where there's a legend. When he was meditating deep in forest, a group of children come to him and they are making some toys and they need some help. And apparently the legend, there's a story which goes is that when Mahagorakshnath Siddha was doing meditation in the jungle, these children come to him and they say that, we want your help to trying to make some toy soldiers. And Baba Gorakshnath says, I'll make some toy soldiers for you. And while he was making it, he was practicing the art of Sanjeevani. Sanjeevani, remember what we discussed in the first chapter? The Sanjeevani herb which Susie and Barbara came looking for. Because he was chanting his mantras and doing meditation, apparently the soldiers came to life. And these are the Gurkhas. So this is the legend of Gurkhas comes from Baba Gorakshnath. This is what the legend says. And because of the severe British invasion that time, Gorakshnath gave these soldiers to Gurkhas, to the king of Nepal. But apparently this is an aspect what the legend goes, but apparently the true story is what actually happened was. It was not the toy soldiers that came to life. The first Gurkhas were children themselves. And it wasn't that Gorakshnath put his art or magic into the toys. He gave that knowledge to the children. So enamored were they that the children went to meet with him every day. He would teach them the secret art of breath work, meditation and asanas, together with the martial arts and the science of Shiv Yogis. He trained them in such a marvelous way that somehow even the genes started to change. They became the best, the perfect ones. Seeing the destruction, what was happening, Gorakshnath decided to go to King of Nepal and said that take these people, I have trained them. They will help you restore peace in your kingdom. It is because of that sequence of events that the world knows about Gurkhas. And through the name of Gorakshnath is remembered, through them. If that destruction had not happened, the great yogi and his warriors would have disappeared from memory. Just like our mango tree and the tribe of monkeys that had devoured them. Baba Gorakshnath was deep in the jungle, tucked away in the corner, away from the world, training a bunch of kids. And then something made them special. But there had to be a disaster for the seeds to sprout again. There's a parallel drawn here in the monkeys, in the aspect where the mango trees are devoured by the monkeys. But they leave the seeds around. And over here also, Baba Gorakshnath, nobody would have known about him and the children whom he trained, except for when the knowledge that was transferred through him and it was gifted to the king of Nepal. That's how we know Gurkhas. So eventually, for any kind of creation, there has to be a cessation, a metamorphosis. As I walked away from the mango tree, back towards the center of the monastery, I started to feel some raindrops. Now, rains are always welcome in the desert. But what I didn't know, that just like the Antim Yatra and the meditation, these rains would be the Antim Yatra for ashram. The rain fell and it poured till there were flash floods. People came from the neighboring areas asking for help. The cattle which went out did not come back. As I started to look around, all the faces trying to understand what was happening, I became very afraid. The monastery was very ancient and many of the buildings were made in the old style. Eventually, the mud walls gave away. First there were 20 huts, then there were 10. In the end, we took shelter in the meditation hall, our largest, sturdiest building. But as the rain continued to bear down, the hall started to collapse. First, a flash flood took one wall, and then I saw the paintings of the great monks being taken away. We moved to the Annapurneshwari, the food hall. I realized there were very few of us left. I saw many of the animals float away. Slowly I realized there were fewer faces every time I looked around. I wondered, did they jump in the water trying to swim to safety? By now I was exhausted from fear, from running, from the misery of seeing my true friends, my animals, being carried away, swept by water. As the rain continued to pound down, the Annapurneshwari hall that had stood for centuries started to crumble under nature's fury. Finally, all that remained was a tiny island of land. And only on that island, I was with my father and 2 dogs, Babaji's dog Shanti and Tufan. We were sitting on the edge of the island and slowly parts of the land started to give away. I grabbed on, holding to Tufan. But Shanti wasn't as nimble as Tufan. And as she was sitting peacefully on the land, the sand collapsed. And Shanti went under the water. I was hoping that she would get up. With tears in my eyes, I looked at my father. And a child, he asked his father, why is this happening? Why are you not angry, Babaji? The monastery is gone. All that is left is only water. Babaji just pointed at the shivling in the temple and said, birth, maintenance and death. All we must look it is at the time. The wheel is spinning. He told me to come and sit and meditate with him. I closed my eyes. I felt nature's fury everywhere. For the first time, the world appeared like a cruel place to me. I felt weak, disconnected, isolated. Mahadev says he experiences emotions which were never there earlier. I wanted the fear to go away. I could remember my vulnerable state. Finally, I don't know if I meditated or slept, but when I got up, I felt the ray of sun on my face. I gazed at the mud standing around the temple and wondered if anything had ever existed there. Later that day in the distance, we saw lights approaching and they got hell. And inside the temple, Mahadev says what only remained was a guru, disciple and his dog. Only 3 people. Our rescuers gave us water and we were told to move from the monastery. Underneath that ancient mango tree where the monkey had thrown, I saw that new seedlings were sprouting. Just for a moment, Mahadev says, I felt like a mango being devoured by a monkey. Seconds before that fruit was ripening, beautiful and glistening, the next moment it was devoured by the monkey. Is this how we go? Doesn't it how it happened that way? Or is there a deep seed inside us which will sprout one day? Thought after thought raged in my head. I had done death meditations before, but this kind of meditation seemed to have a profound impact on his emotional state. They were new feelings. Mahadev says he could still physically remember the sense of losing Shanti. And as he held on to Tufan so tightly, his emotional state was that everything I actually loved, nature has taken it away from me. The joy at the face was gone as he sat deeper into the chaotic thoughts. The mind was very heavy, anxious. Babaji saw me huddling crows and he kept his hand on my head. You are stronger than what you think. Try to feel your pulse. Try to meditate on what you want. If you meditate on what you want, maybe the great Sanjeevani of the universe will listen. And maybe you can make your own destiny. My Guru's words felt like a warm blanket on a cold night. They comforted me, and I started to think, I have to do something so that I may never feel like this again. Maybe one day eventually will go. Our lineage would indeed disappear. But the knowledge of my ancestors must not fade away. The answer was clear. Somebody must teach it. Somebody must hold the torch. That young me decided that I would be the one to spread this knowledge. But then I wondered, I was just a kid. What more could I do? How would I keep this knowledge alive? I felt it was important to make sure that there are enough temples to keep the knowledge alive. But when I said temples, I knew it was not a stone-made temple, but for me, temple was a living temple, a temple of blood and bone. People like Gorakshnath. I knew I must teach people the knowledge and spread it beyond a single lifetime. From destruction, a new cycle had started. Destruction of a fruit had allowed the seed to fall to the ground, and a new plant had emerged out of it. And I sweat as we were being taken away to safety. I thought I could see the Jyotirling glimmering. The fourth Jyotirling, the three, which was the third Jyotirling, which we saw in the last chapter. A new beginning had commenced. The Kal Chakra was on its third edge. But in the new beginning, holding Babaji's hand and with Tufan lying on my lap, I felt like the dust of the pyre. And only two questions lingered within me. Who am I? What do I do now? What do I do now? This chapter ends on this note. And this chapter also brings us to a culmination of the first section of the book, which is actually labeled Leaving Paradise. So yes, this was the part where Babaji, Mahadev and Tufan, they left the monastery in Rajasthan and they moved on. Till we meet again on the second part, take care and Namah Shivay.